Hi everyone, it's Jeanette here from the Sewing Studio, and today I'm fulfilling a request. Somebody had asked me, could I show them how to do a Christmas tree skirt? It's that time of year when we're all thinking about Christmas, and funnily enough, I actually designed one and made one. I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago now, and it was one of my local quilt groups said, would I do a workshop on a Christmas tree skirt? And this is what I made, and there was a method to my madness for this one because I knew the group quite well, and I know there was quite a lot of different abilities within the group in terms of skills levels, and so I decided to design something that was actually quite versatile. So I designed this one, and basically all the Christmas tree skirt it's sort of a glorified quilt really, and I designed it just with 2 simple blocks, and this is the one I've used here is a 9 patch and a friendship star, because we all know how much I like a star block. But the whole idea behind this one is people could mix and match out these blocks for any other blocks that they liked, sticking at 6.5-inch squares. So let me just go through some of those options very quickly for you, because if you don't particularly like these star blocks, I've been doing quite a lot of star blocks recently, and in the one I'm doing for here, I've changed that up. But on the 9 patch blocks, I've just used 2.5-inch squares. And I'll talk a little bit about the fabric I'm using in this one, but I could have made a block that was just sort of a simple square in the centre and bordered. I could have left it just as a feature fabric, and actually one of the ladies in the workshop that I did actually did that. She did the 9 patch, and I think she replaced the stars with just a feature fabric. We could swap out one of those blocks just for a plain 6.5-inch square, and you could put an applique on that, or you could leave that as a quilting space. You could put a nice decorative quilting in there, or a little stitchery panel or something you can put into there. Or you could just put sort of a snowball block and also have some blank space there to put an applique or a stitchery or do some nice quilting in. So I sort of call it my mix and match Christmas tree skirt, because there's lots of different options with it. As I said, this all uses 6.5-inch squares, and if I just pull, but you can sort of see it's just sort of laid out here. So there's a total of 24 blocks. So for this, I did 12 of the 9 patch and 12 of the friendship star. So that's sort of a simple, we just want 24 6-inch blocks, and then we will show you how to lay that out. So let me just roll this one up. It's quite hefty, and I'm just going to put that there. And I'm going to talk about the fabrics I've been using to remake this. And I looked through some of the fabrics here, and the one I chose to do is Joyful Joyful. It's this lovely fabric. Now we've got it here as the mini charms. That would be too small for this. However, you could use that, excuse me, if you've got that in your stash for the 9 patch blocks. But you do need a total of 108 2.5-inch squares for that. So you would need more than one. Layer cake would be absolutely perfect, because it would make both the blocks that I'm doing on this one and the ones in there. These are the lovely Joyful Joyful. It's a bit more of a modern take on the Christmas colours, with the very sort of limey greens, this beautiful sort of corally colour. And then we've got sort of an aqua, which my eldest sister would really like that, and the navy blue. So it's sort of a more modern take on the fabric. So for the one I'm going to be demonstrating today, the layer cake would be the best option for this. We do also sell these fabrics as yardage on the bolt here. But actually this original one that I did with the 9 patches and friendship stars, I actually had a jelly roll. So that came from a jelly roll, because that uses all 2.5-inch sized pieces. But let me show you how I've recreated this for today. And what I've chosen to do is one of my other favourite blocks, particularly for Christmas. It looks nice on a Christmas block, or any time of the year actually, is the pinwheel. So I've actually put together 9 patches with pinwheels. So I've kept the 9 patch and pinwheels. But as I said, you can swap out either of those blocks for either any other 6-inch finished block that you prefer, or some of the options I've shown you there earlier with the different choices. So that's why I sort of call it mix and match really. You can personalise it to however you want your quilt to look. And we are talking about quilts for the moment, and then at the end we'll turn it into a Christmas tree skirt. So let's start by making the 9 patch. It's a nice simple block. So let me just put those to one side for a moment. and grab my 2.5-inch squares. As I said, you want a total of 12 9-patch blocks. So I've just picked out, and I've already cut these into 2.5-inch squares to save a bit of time. And it's just literally a 3x3 grid. And you've probably seen me do this countless times. Now, on this version, I've decided that each of my centre squares in my 9 patches, I'm going to put this a light coloured square. And I actually chose the same fabric. It's this, I don't know if I've got a large piece of it. Let me see if I can find it in the layer cake a minute. So it's one that's got the 3 wise men on it and sort of Bethlehem, and there's a little manger and crib and everything there. And so on some of the blocks, I've fussy cut it out, the centres, as much best I can. But they're the ones that I've used, that one fabric in all of the centres, just because I could. So let's sew together our 9 patch. We're just going to put it together in rows. All I do, as normal, is right goes on to left. I'm going to take that to the machine, sew down there, and then add those squares to the other side of each of those rows. So that's our 9 patch block also. Now I'm not going to press that one for a minute. I'm going to move straight on and make the pinwheel, because then I can take them both to the iron and press them at the same time. So let's just move that one up there out the way. Now for the pinwheels, I took 4-inch squares. Let me just check that was definitely 4 inches. Yes, it is. And then I've just a background and a coloured, and then I've just drawn a line diagonally from corner to corner. And I just did 2 at a time. Method, and then I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch either side of that line. So now I'm just going to grab my, actually I'll do this with scissors, just because they're right at hand. Just going to cut on that line. Now I will just quickly take these to the iron and press, and then I'll put it together. So I've just pressed that 9 patch while I was at the iron. Now for these, we need to trim them down to 3.5 inches. Now you could keep them all the same size, put your pinwheel together and then trim the whole pinwheel. It's entirely up to you. I've got some other ones here ready to go to be put into the pinwheel. But I'm going to put this under the close-up so you can just see that I'm going to take my centre line, my diagonal line, and it's 3.5 I'm looking for. Actually, I'm just going to swizzle it that way because I can see the half marks a bit easier this way round, and there's not a lot to trim. And you just want to make sure that that diagonal line, sorry, finish that sentence, is running up the centre. So that's all there was to trim off. Now, if you used a scant 1/4 of an inch, you'd have a little bit more, but there should be plenty on a 4-inch to do that. So I then trimmed up 4 of those, and I've got some here already done. And then we're just going to put it together in a pinwheel. Now that one, I don't want to put my camel in upside down. So let's start with that one. That one needs to go there. And we'll see. Let's put that one that side. I'm being very fussy, the direction of things going. Right, sorry, 1/4 turn. 1/4 turn. Right, Jeanette, what are you doing here? There we are, and it's going to go together like that. So right onto left again. Now, because we've pressed towards the dark, these seams should all nest. Right, sorry, I just turned myself around there. Yep. Just double checking again. You know, sometimes when your brain doesn't quite compute which side you should be sewing, and it's that one, so I'm going to put a pin in it. I point the pin to where I should be starting to sew. This is quite often the bit that you can get turned around, and at home I have a little board that I put them all out on, so they get carried to the sewing machine as they need to be sewn. So we're going to sew down there to put our pinwheel together. Now I press my seam towards where the darker fabric is. Now as we come close to the centre, I do also just need to point out this point right here. Now I've got a seam going across that way diagonally and a seam going there, and that is my tip of my pinwheel. So I need to make sure that when I'm sewing, my needle either goes right through the centre at that point or very slightly to the right of it. If I go to the left of it, I will have cut off the point of my pinwheel. So if X marks the spot, I call that. Let me just mark it with a pen actually so you can see it a bit more clearly. Right there is my X marks the spot point. So I'm going to be watching that as my needle comes to it. So there's our lovely pinwheel block. So let's take that to the iron and give it a press. So that's our 2 blocks all ready to go into the quilt. So let's have a look at how we actually lay this all out. So I've got one here that I've started to assemble, and I always think that the back of the Christmas tree skirt is where the ties are going to go. So in this one I've got some directional fabric, so actually if I turn it round as I'm looking at it, because I think that's the angle the camera takes it from, so you can see anywhere where I've got like a direction, so I don't want my camels upside down, this is going to end up being the back. So this is where eventually I'm going to make the cut to turn it into a Christmas tree skirt. But let's just have a look. So just bear that in mind, particularly for this fabric, it has got quite a lot of direction on it. I'm going to say we don't want our angels. Actually, I was going to say we don't want our angels flying upside down, but on this fabric, I think they're multi-directional on the large print, so that's not too bad. So let's just concentrate on the blocks for a minute. So let's pull this right down. I started with 2 blocks. So I've got the 9 patch and whichever you choose to be your second block. In this case, I'm doing pinwheels. So we've got a row of 2. Then we've got a row of 4, and we alternate where we've got the 9 patch there. We put our second block in underneath and vice versa. And then we've got a row of 6. Then we've got another row of 6, and then we're going to go back to a row of 4 and then a row of 2. So I've got my row of 4 done here. So that's my row of 4. and then a row of 2, which is going to go here. Let me just move that up a little bit so that's a little bit more in shot, because I think we're off. So these are going to be the 2 rows. So that's the 24. So you've got 2, 4, 6, 6, 4 and 2. Now all we need to do on these is complete these areas here, and we do that by using set-in triangles. So let me just show you that at the top here. So here are the set-in triangles, and all 4 of these come from one 10.5 inch square, which I've got here. So my second lot here that I'm going to need for these bottom 2 rows, I'm going to get from this piece of fabric here, which I'm just going to check which way round. I was checking to see, I think it was an Eleanor Burns thing, which she was saying when you've got a tone on tone, if you can't see which way round, put it on your trousers if you've got dark coloured trousers, because it'll shine through, or not shine through, and show you where your lights are, which way round it should go. Now I need a longer ruler. I forgot about that one. So we're going to cut diagonally from corner to corner, both directions. Now I should have had if I had a rotating cutting mat, I could have rotated, but I've just moved myself. And that's our set-in triangles. Now, if we just keep that as one piece, our straight edges are still around the outside and these edges are bias. So anytime we're using set-in triangles, we want the bias on the inside. We want this to stay on the outside of our quilt. So the way I'm actually going to do it is just stack them up, one on top of each other, like so, and then I can remember which was the outside edge. And then we're just going to bring our 2 pieces down. Just going to lay them out, because I'm very visual, so I like to see what's going on. And then this triangle goes in there. This triangle goes in there. So these are our cut bias edges. So we've got straighter grain still there. And then that one goes in that side, and that one goes in that side. And then that makes our octagonal shape. So to add these, I'm going to, and you just line up, there's a 90-degree corner there, we're just going to line that up. And I'm actually probably going to put a couple of pins in, and then I can take them all to the sewing machine and sew it all together. Right, every time I pick that up, I feel like I'm moving it, so let's do it like that. Now these are bigger than you need, so you will have ends that, that needle's got some thread on it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the same on the other side. That corner goes in there like so. This actually comes together really quite quickly. And particularly with the pinwheel blocks, because there's not a huge amount of sewing. I think I put together the whole quilt of the other one I did in about a morning for the piecing for the top. Now, while I'm talking about that, I will just say we're actually going to do this as 2 parts, because I then need to show you how to turn it into a actual Christmas tree skirt. So how to cut, and then also how to finish it with binding. So we'll get as far as putting this all together and adding, or starting to add borders. And then in the next video, we'll finish it all off. So I'm going to take all those to the sewing machine and sew all of those set-in triangles on the ends. So I always just take everything back to the quilt just to make sure I've definitely sewn everything on the right way, and I have. So all I'm going to do for the moment, I'm just going to finger press these. Just be a little bit careful because that is a bias edge on the triangle. So I'm just going to finger press those. And then I'm just going to take off these two bits of fabric because the next thing I need to do is join this row to that row. So I'm just going to get my little ruler. These triangles are oversized, so it gives us plenty of room. And I've just matched up a line on my ruler with the seam. And once again there. And then we can add that row to there. No, actually I've pressed it that way and I've just looked at the seam. The seam goes there, so press towards the 9 patch. I think in all of this, I think it might be towards the 9 patch. So I'm just going to pin that. That one goes towards the triangle because that seam's gone towards the 9 patch. You could, if you prefer, press your seams open. I am just going to put a little pin at the end there. I'm not, however, going to pin at the start. So we're ready to do that seam, and then we've just got one final seam to put the whole thing together. So we've sewn those two rows together, so that's all ready now to attach to this top piece. Now there's a few points to match here. No, I think on that one I've pressed the seam open. So I've done some different things, or I've caught it open. But I'm just going to nest. Now, you know I'm not a great pinner, but this is definitely one of those things where I'm going to pin. I'm actually going to sew it. Actually, Jeanette, do it that way around because I'm going to sew it with this smaller piece on top. So let's work in that direction. So I am going to pin at each of these junctions. And I'm just matching the seam and then just sort of, I give it a little rub and it just sort of pushes those seams together. But also having those pins there will remind me that that's a match point and I need to pay attention when I get to that. So just take your time. I say it comes together pretty quickly anyway. And then my final one, I only need one pin. Okay, that's all pinned. So let's take it to the machine and do our final seam. So there's that seam all done. So all I need to do is take it to the iron and give it a final press. So let's do that. So there it is, all finished, which is my up and down. There we are. That way. Now, the only other thing I would do now is just go round and trim. And I've given you plenty of space at these junctions, so you've definitely got more than 1/4 of an inch. You've probably got at least 1/2 an inch there, and that means that when you actually come to put your borders on, it makes it a bit easier. So I'll just start by showing you a quick trim. So we're just taking off those bits. Now what I'll tend to do is go round and just check. I'm just taking off these points to begin with. Check at all those junctions what measurement I've got, and I go with the lowest common denominator. So if I can get a 1/2 inch out of all of them, I'll do 1/2 an inch. If I can only get 3/8, I'll go for 3/8. For the moment, I'm just taking off these excess points here. A little bit of a slither there. Now I'm not going to trim the other ones for a minute because we need to go and select a border fabric. Now quite often I wait until my centre is complete before I choose my border fabric, because quite often I'm not working from a pattern or a picture, but also I'm very visual, so I'm just going to turn it that way around. I like to see what fabric I want to see. So if there's a particular colour in the centre I want to pull forward, I'll use that in my border. So I thought it'd be a really nice idea if we got Naomi to grab her portable camera and we'll go and have a look at the shop to see what fabric we're going to select for the border. So let's do that together. Okay, so here are the fabrics. Oh, I don't think that's in the range, but I'm liking those. Let's cover those up. Don't get distracted, Jeanette. So here are the fabrics for that one. So I'm liking the idea of the blue. Now I quite like that blue. That might be a bit much. Let's pull that one for the minute. But the other blue that might look quite nice is that one, I'm thinking. So let's grab that one. And then let's try an aqua. So let's have a look at that one. And then let's try one of these peachy coloured ones. Maybe that one. And I'm picking ones that aren't specifically, or maybe that one. Oh, I don't know, I've got two now. I quite like that one as well. So these are all in the range. So we've just selected one of each of those, and I'm just going to take them over to the table and take them into the daylight and then audition them with the centre. Now I've also got this, which I'm going to have a look, because if it's too busy I might decide to put a solid on with it. Now this is sometimes, I think that's the closer blue to that, so let's grab that blue. That's right. And actually we haven't picked out a red, so let's go for a red. And I think it's that one. Let's try those two. So I'm going to have a look. Now that's not quite the right blue, and you can sort of see there. And I'm not sure I like that solid blue anyway. So let's just swap that one out. Put that one in there. I'm quite liking that one, so I'm going to keep that one up here. Just push it to one side. This is the other blue, and these are both from the range. Joyful, joyful. I quite like that one as well. I'm getting a nod from Naomi. If you could see Naomi behind the camera, she's liking that one. So let's put this one. No, not liking that. That was a no from Naomi as well. Let's try this one. This is next in my... I'm already thinking no. That wasn't quite the right red either. So far, I don't think so. You can never tell. And it's interesting, I will just say, as you put the colours there, one, what it looks like in the border, but also what it does to the rest, I think that's too wishy-washy. I think that's too pale. I'm liking one of those blues. So it's choice between these two blues. So we've got that one, and I'm going to put that one on that side. I'm quite liking that, because it's also got some of the other colours in there that is pulling out the red. Sorry, I'm going to walk in front of the camera. But I do also like either of those. I'm going to ask Naomi, have you got a favourite? Oh, you like this one? About Jenny. I'm going to grab Jenny.
I think that one.
Oh, no, Naomi likes this one. I like them both, but I think I prefer that one.
I think I like a smaller print on it.
Yeah, I like a smaller print on a border as well. Okay, so we're back from our adventure into the shop, which was really nice, actually. We don't often get to do that while we're filming. And this is the fabric we decided. This was the one that Naomi's little face lit up when she saw this one. But we did canvass some other opinions from other members of staff that were here. We didn't interrupt some of the real shoppers that were down there shopping. But this is the one we've picked, and we chose this one. I think the blue one with the like the snowflakes on it also looked really nice. But we've decided to go with this one because we felt that it brought in some of the colours from the centre of the quilt. It is a little bit busier for a border, but it's Christmas when, you know, that's the time for glitz and sparkle, isn't it? So we can get away with it. So we've got 1/2 metre of our border fabric, and I've started to cut it into 3-inch strips, and I'm just going to show you how to add the border. Now I'm starting on one of these longer sides here because we're working with some funny angles, and we're going to keep it octagonal shaped. Now I'm actually going to overlap it by a little bit. Actually, it doesn't have to be too much, because once we've sewn it on, we're going to be sort of trimming that off, and that angle is okay. So I'm going to start on one of these side pieces, and I probably couldn't have put it further away from myself for pinning, but we'll make it work. So I'm going to put a couple of pins in just to hold that, and then we're going to take that to the sewing machine, and we're going to do that. But while we're at the sewing machine, we might as well make use of it. I'm going to put another strip on the other side. So I work in opposites. So I'm going to do the same again. I'm just going to hang it off by just a little bit. Oh, that's a needle. That's not even a pin. Yep, that'll be okay. So we're going to sew both of these on. Okay, let's take those to the sewing machine. So we're just going to press that seam. So now we need to just trim, and we're just going to follow the angle of the, actually, probably, no I won't, I'll do it with my long ruler. I was going to do it with a short ruler. We're just going to follow the angle of the actual Christmas tree skirt. And I'm just going to line up the seam I've got there, a straight seam, with a straight line on my ruler. And then we're just going to take a deep breath and cut. And then we can whiz this round. Ooh. And then do the same. Just lining that up with the edge and cut. So now we can put on our next piece, either there or there, either of those. And we will do, actually, let me just do the other side quickly because we sewed that side. And we're going to work in opposites. Each time we put a strip on, we're going to do it in opposites. And then that will make our whole thing look nice and balanced. So I'm going to trim that. Now, the reason I let a little bit hang out, because if we have got an angle that we need some more fabric in, I think on these, most of them are sort of outside angles, but we have got it. I'd rather have a bit extra than not enough. And that would come for some English paper piecing. Looking at it, might even get a 2.5 inch square out of that, you never know. So there we've got our two sides done. So now we can choose. So let's go here, and then we'll do these two opposite. So we need to do the same again, but this time our strips will go there. So we're going to start from the edge of that and go down, and that's all there is to adding the borders. You just, let's say, put in opposites, trim to the shape of your Christmas tree skirt, and then just keep going. So let's just sew that one and trim that one so you can just see that coming together. So we're going to take that to the iron again, but I'm just going to check it to make sure I'm happy with it, and I am. And then once again, we can trim. So this time I'm trimming to the edge of the binding because that's where we started. And then here, I'm going to line that up with the quilt. And then I would have put the other side on like that, and then my next piece will go on here. So we'll start there and we'll end there. And you just keep going round, working in pairs until you've covered the whole of the 8 sides. So I've got a bit of homework now to do. I'm going to finish putting on the rest of the borders, and then I'm going to take this away, quilt it, we'll layer it and quilt it, and then we'll do a part 2 where we come to actually turn it into the Christmas tree skirt by making a slit and doing the hole and finishing it off with the binding. So join me again very shortly for part 2.